Now, David Cameron's off to Brussels today to meet up with his fellow EU leaders, and he's got quite a shopping list of demands. He's going to object to requests from the EU for a bigger budget, and he's going to continue to press his case for reforming our relationship with Europe, including some controls over migration. Sounds like a big ask, but our next guest from the pro-EU pressure group British Influence argues that actually he may be pushing at an open door.
It's a buzzy place, isn't it? We're only 2 hours away from Brussels and Paris and the rest of Europe. Here is the crossroads of Britain. But a dangerous war of words has broken out. Where does the country go next? Do we spend it leading or leaving Europe? The British people need an answer. In 1940, Winston Churchill stood in defence of freedom, democracy and the rule of law. He won the war with the biggest alliance ever created. He won the peace. He went to Strasbourg, urging Europe to change. He provided leadership, and Europe did change. Who can deny that the whole continent now lives with the values that he championed? So what does David Cameron want out of Europe?
Completing the single market to be our driving mission, to exempt Europe's smallest entrepreneurial companies from more EU directives, creating a leaner, less bureaucratic union. We must not be weighed down by an insistence on a one-size-fits-all approach. Power must be able to flow back to member states, not just away from them. Whatever new arrangements are enacted for the Eurozone, they must work fairly for those countries inside it or outside it.
Well, I'll let you into a little scoop. All of the European countries have agreed to exactly those demands, and they want Britain to get stuck into achieving them. But the problem is, for the quitters and the kippers, no change is good enough. They just want to leave. And we deserve leaders who want to take Britain forward, not back, to make it better still, by creating a new Europe fit for the 21st century, together with our friends and allies. So Britain has two paths to follow. Do we stop the world and get off, or do we pull the levers of power that we have and with our friends influence the world? I think I know which way Winston Churchill would have gone. We're not a nation of quitters. We have the tools. Let's finish the job.
Very stylish. And from St Pancras International Station in London to our studio, Peter Wilding joins us now, and we're also joined by Suzanne Evans. She's the Deputy Chairman of UKIP. Welcome to both of you. Peter, first of all, is David Cameron failing as a leader to get the reforms he wants?
Well, the curious thing is he's succeeding in getting the reforms he wants. The problem is he doesn't want to talk about it. And so consequently, apart from the simple fact that he is a leader in Europe and that he's got 27 other member states to essentially agree to exactly the Bloomberg demands that the film reported on, unfortunately, he doesn't want to give a lead to the British people, and it's a great shame because the British people are crying out for that leadership. Unfortunately, while 75% of the country say we want Britain to stand tall in the world, we realise we're a great power, 65% of them say we've got zero influence, everybody ignores us, the French and Germans run the show, and so consequently we should pull out.
Right. So your analysis is that he is a Europhile in that sense, that he wants to stay within a reformed EU, that he is actually managing to persuade his other colleagues within the European Union, and it's because of fears of UKIP and within his own party that he doesn't talk about it here.
Which is why I equated this whole message with Winston Churchill. I mean, Churchill in the 40s stood up for freedom, democracy and the rule of law. He wants exactly those values to spread. He wanted those values to spread throughout Europe. He succeeded in doing so because, you know, democracy ended at Dover in 1940, and now it's being fought over in Donetsk in the Ukraine. We are leaders in these values.
Right. We haven't heard perhaps the specifics, but listening to Peter Wilding there, Suzanne Evans, who says that actually David Cameron is succeeding in that renegotiation, the renegotiation that UKIP says he has no chance of achieving.
Well, that's not what Jean-Claude Barroso said. said, was it, earlier in the week when he talked about how he wished that David Cameron would come out and put his Europhile position on the agenda. But as you say, he's terrified of UKIP, so he's not doing it. And it's all very well to give us the headlines about change, but until we know the nitty-gritty, until we know the detail of renegotiation, we can't actually know what's going to happen. And I'm afraid the evidence suggests that the direction of travel is actually going in the more federalism, more superstatism, more closer political and economic...
There's more detail in this, which has been agreed by everybody, than in a UKIP manifesto,
give us the examples,
which doesn't exist.
Peter, give us the examples of what has been achieved in renegotiation. Tell Suzanne what has been achieved by David Cameron.
Well, the Bloomberg speech was very clear. We wanted the completion of the single market for more jobs. We wanted free trade agreements with the United States and others. We also wanted these key points of renegotiation. Discussion of ever closer union, more power for national parliaments, more subsidiarity, less red tape. And now you've got one guy, the Dutch fellow Frans Timmermans, the right-hand man to Juncker, who has said, I want to create a British Europe based on these principles. What's not to like?
Well, I think, again, actually, the specifics are not there.
Which ones, though?
Where is the detail on migration? I mean, this is the one thing...
Before we get to migration,
we'll
come on to migration. But let's go through the issues actually raised there by Peter Wilding in terms of completion of the single market, for example. What do you say to that?
Well, obviously, UKIP is absolutely in favour of free and fair trade.
And do you say that's been achieved?
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
I
think we need to actually look at exactly what's been done, because we all know that the European Union, unfortunately, UKIP has experienced this week. They're not beyond doing deals, stitch-ups behind closed doors. That's the first thing.
Right. What about ever closer union amongst the Eurozone countries?
Absolutely, and that is what people don't want. And if you look at the Ipsos Mori poll that's come out this week, in which no doubt the headline is that people want to stay in, but actually you look at the nitty-gritty, only 14% of people in Britain want ever closer political and economic union. And as I said earlier, that is the direction of travel, and that is not what the British people want.
So you're basically pleading defeat. You're not prepared to get stuck in and change
not.
this.
I'm not pleading defeat. I think it's the people like you, with respect, Peter, who are pleading defeat in seeing that Britain cannot exist outside of the European Union. I see Britain as a very strong, economically powerful country. We are the 6th largest world economy. We have everything to play for in leaving the European Union.
Why can't we have the best of both worlds?
We take our seat back at the World Trade Organization. We sit on the UN Security Council again. We join the World Bank,
So you'd sacrifice everything
NATO.
for a chair?
No, absolutely not. It's not about a check whatsoever. It is about making Britain great again. And unfortunately, I don't see that happening while we have completely lack of influence in the Parliament, in the Commission, in the Council of Ministers, right across the board. We are hamstrung.
Rubbish.
Right, before we'll come back to the two of you, but let's just pick up on what people actually think, because there's quite a lot of confusion. Do more people who have been polled on this issue want to stay within the EU with no change?
No, more people want to stay within the EU with some change.
With some change, even minimal change?
Yes, any change. They want change. But, I mean, I think there is a paradox, though, and Suzanne is aware of this, I think, that as UKIP is obviously doing very well, but paradoxically, as UKIP does better and better, so more people are saying they want to stay in the EU. And I think what's happening is this debate, which is often one that people don't engage with very much, is out there, and they're looking at the alternatives, and they feel quite afraid.
Do you accept that on that UKIP has lost the debate, or is certainly losing it now, on that particular issue, that actually with change, with some renegotiation, more people, a lot more people actually, if it was major renegotiation of powers, 55% to 23% want to stay in the EU?
Yes, but again, we say that 14%, that is only 14% that wants to have closer and political and economic union, and that is the direction of travel. And it's all very well to say, well, for goodness sake, you only have to look. Have you been to the European Parliament recently? Have you been to Brussels? Have you been to Strasbourg? Have you seen the votes go through? 4,000 new regulations and directives since 2010 alone.
But why does that lead to closer union? And which regulations are you talking about? Are you talking about health and safety regulations? Are you talking about employment law regulations?
Across the patch. Right. I mean, we have done, we had 40
businesses want to stay in the European Union, and so if red tape is your problem, small, medium and large, and if they have such a problem with red tape, why are they not saying let's leave?
It's the big businesses that are saying leave. The smaller businesses actually don't want to leave. It's all very well talking to the CBI, who've got
I'm not talking about the CBI. I'm talking about the Federation of Small
Businesses that can afford to employ the staff. I did some work myself just in Slovakia recently. It was incredible, the amount of red tape. It was not worth my while doing it. I trade with America and Britain very easily.
I'm going to have to stop it there, I'm afraid, but we will have another
We didn't even get on to immigration.
know, we didn't. Do you know, that's amazing that we managed to do a whole of Europe and didn't get onto the issue of migration. Can you do anything about migration, yes or no?
The most famous Polish immigrant
I could answer
is the
that for you.
Polish
No,
immigrant
from
who
you.
has just
All right.
joined UKIP, the wonderful homophobic, misogynist,
Right.
Holocaust denier.
We're going to leave it there. That will start a whole new